Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show. Control or Be Controlled, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. And I remain your host, Darlington. Our guest today believes that money is more than a transaction. It is a reflection of human value, trust, and connection. After spending 25 years in payments and fintech, she stepped away from corporate finance to study something the financial industry often overlooks: the relationship between money, trauma, human behavior, and the systems that shape our lives. Through conversations with survivors of trauma, entrepreneurs, and undeserved communities, our guest today discovered what she calls the hidden money wounds that impact how people exchange value, build businesses, and experience financial freedom. She's the director of card services at a credit union, founder of Maiden Explorations, and host of Unlocking Commerce in Business, where she explores the future of trust-based commerce, trauma-informed finance, and the evolution of economic systems. Today we will discuss money, human value, financial healing, and how we can create systems that serve people, not just transactions. Our guest today is Connie Davis. Connie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. And hello to all of your listeners.
Thank you so much, Connie. I hope you enjoyed that wonderful introduction.
It was very powerful. I was like, are you talking about me? So yeah, it's been a journey. Thank you for bringing some of that forward. Those have been incredible learning experiences for me.
You never know what you have achieved and what you have done until someone else has to introduce you. Then you
Right?
realize, wow, I've had quite a journey. So thank you so much, and I'm happy that you enjoyed that introduction. So I guess today she's fully packed, and I'm happy. So I would like us to get into the show. I have some questions there for you, and I'm sure my audience they want to know and get answers as well. Okay,
Let's go. What do you
okay.
got?
So you say that commerce is the full exchange of human value, not just the transaction. So I want you to explain what that means and how does it change the way we think about money today?
It's a very thought-provoking phrase, and I use it all the time. And even on my own show, and the guests that visit with me there, they have to stop and think because we use the word transaction. We all understand what that means, right? We know what it means to go into a store and to buy something, or to be a merchant and to sell something. That's just everyday life. And we bring all of our treasures home with us, especially around the holidays or for special events. But I intentionally use the word commerce because it means to exchange that value, not just to transact and to buy or sell, but to exchange. And when we really start thinking about our own lives and the way that we interact with other people, look at the people that you spend time with, look at the ones that you love being around. There's a value exchange that's happening. Look at your favorite customers. Look at your favorite, services that you sell. And, if you're doing a sale and you have repeat customers, they're coming back because they're getting value and they're exchanging that value with you using capital, which is money, right? Money is just time turned into a tool that we can universally exchange in whatever country we live in. And so if we really start breaking down the root, which is, part of some of my work is, getting to the root of the words that we just throw around every day. That's why I landed with commerce, because the original marketplace, way back at the beginning of money, when it was shells or salt or season spices, or it was, barter, that was what it was about: is I need something, you have something that I need or value, and I'm willing to exchange it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Connie, for that wonderful answer.
Thank you for the
So,
question.
okay, so I want to know there's you have two questions. The second part is how does it change the way we think about money in a practical way?
It can, if you let it sink in and you let it just plant a seed inside of you and you start thinking about it, and your brain and your mind and your spirit starts kind of, you know, watering that concept inside of you. And it just starts refreshing and helping you remember that you actually hold knowledge. You have time because you're alive on this planet, and we're all walking around and exchanging our value for compensation. And money is the tool that reflects that compensation, right? We get a deposit into our bank account, we get cash put into our hands, paper money, metal coins. Those are all just representing the compensation that we deserve or we feel that we've earned because we have something of worth or value inside of us. When we go to work, we're getting paid after we exchange that time, and we use that money to circulate something else that we need, right? We're circulating it around our worlds. And that's how you start practically thinking about what do you use money for? And why are you using it? What are you using it to purchase or to obtain or to acquire? And when you start really thinking about the practical exchange of money and why you're doing it, why you're actually giving something up that represented time and who you're trading it with, it changes the way that you look at money, and you start kind of being more aware and conscious of your decisions. You start taking control of those decisions in a way that you're more just reflective of what did I just spend that, dollar on or those coins on? How much of my time did I have to previously exchange in order to get that money? And as I've leaned into the future of, money and commerce and business on blockchain or using cryptocurrencies and digital assets, it's really about that human understanding of what proof of work means.
Wow, thank you, Tomo. That was a brilliant one, Connie. So, okay, let's talk about your time in payments and fintech. You spent 25 years in payment and fintech. That's a lot of experience in payment and fintech, I can say, 2.5 decades. So, what did you begin seeing inside the financial system that made you walk away and search for deeper answers?
What I started seeing was really two things, and thank you for the question because we don't talk about it enough. The first thing is that money and technology has become so intertwined that the act of actually moving money around is completely invisible. And you think about that for a second. It's so invisible that we tap a screen or we, log into a system and give it instructions to move our money around. Our children think that money is attached to a plastic card or to a phone. And they think that the way that they generate income or compensation for themselves, they never get to receive what it feels like to have a pile of paper money or coins in their hand anymore. There's a really disruptive force to that if you think about it. And that was what I really started realizing when you start studying why do we have financial literacy challenges? Why do people not understand the very money systems that they're actually trusting to hold their money after a 40-hour work week or for some longer? Some of them, some people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to keep their family safe and secure, clothed and fed and housed. And those are all basic human needs. And so as you look around and you start seeing all of this data flowing through the financial systems, And it's so invisible, but it's touching people's lives each and every day. And sometimes it's not reaching the people that need it the most, the ones that are really living in a place of adversity and struggle and trying to just survive. And so it was about, I don't know, it was probably about 12, maybe 8 years ago that I really started seeing this. Well, wait a second. There's people that are living outside of the financial system that are excluded from qualifying for a bank account just to be able to hold money in an institution who deems them unworthy. What is wrong with that? Why are we doing that? So that's really what started the journey for me.
But that was a very tough decision to make, right?
It was. It was absolutely a tough decision, but it needed it needed some air. I needed some air. I needed out of my office and my cave, that I worked and spent heads down in my computer, being just like everybody else, going to work, driving to the office, sitting in meetings all day, building a thing that people thought, we all needed, and making money invisible. And I had to stop. I had to stop that cycle and get out in the community, explore my community, and look around and see just what the invisibility of money had done.
Okay, thank you, Connie. So you spent time listening to survivors of trauma, abuse, and human trafficking. Tell us how those experiences, what they taught you about the connection between money, vulnerability, and human dignity.
What they taught me is that a commoditized product can be anything we define it to be. And what I mean by that is, as you look at individuals who really have no sense of self worth, they don't believe that they hold any value. And they themselves, unfortunately, can become a product for sale. And they don't have the belief in themselves, they don't have the dignity that a child should grow up with because the people around them have told them that they're worthy and they're beautiful and they're smart and they're capable and they're creative and all of the great words that are really empowering words. They're not told those things. And when they are not told those things, they grow up to reflect and to mirror the community back to that mirrored back to them. They become, and we've heard this phrase before, a product of their environment. Well, if they're a product of their environment of abuse and neglect and, things being bought and sold, why would they not be any different as the human product? And so that's really what kind of woke me up and made me look around a little bit differently and ask, how can I help?
Okay, so do you agree that most people, their reaction to money is based on their emotions, right?
Yes.
So how can they probably relate to money better when they are going through trauma or these things?
It's a great question. It's a very subjective answer, though. So, because money represents the ability to acquire something of need, right? And there's a diagram that we use in the trauma practitioner community called Maslow's hierarchy. And if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, it's a triangle. And at the base of the triangle is shelter. And, having shelter means that you have the ability for your body to rest, to sleep, to feel safe, to feel secure. And without that shelter, you're emotional, you're scared, you're afraid, you have all of the emotions that run through you. But money can be a barrier to maintaining that shelter. And so as we think about the unhoused and those that are, living on the streets or don't have the basic shelter necessity to feel safe and secure, money becomes that barrier or that, reason that they don't have shelter because they don't have money. So they're intertwined. So the emotions get more and more scary, disruptive from there. Because if without shelter, you're dealing with all of the survival emotions, and money becomes the object to blame, the object to seek, right? So we chase it to stay secure. We work hard to stay secure. And in that kind of context, it's that connection that money and emotions have.
All right, Philly, thank you so much for addressing that, because I think when I say I used to be, or maybe I'm still a victim of that, of reacting to money emotionally, trying to find that security with
Mhm.
money and everything. So I think I'm still a victim, still working hard, trying to probably get out of that, and doing everything possible for me to break that pattern. And I hope those who are listening, they can take one or two things from here as well. If you belong to this category, as myself, we are looking for ways to break out of those patterns, and I'm sure we succeed and prevail. So let's also talk about money wounds. What are money wounds, and how do they continue influencing people's financial decisions, relationships, and businesses?
That's a great question. And I'm really glad that you actually shared a little bit of how my answer kind of, it really sounded like it settled in with you for a second. And it causes us to kind of take a pause and we reflect on how do we react when we don't have enough to pay for something that we want or something that we need? Or how do we react to the very rules and policies, and we'll just call them, protocols at the financial institutions that hold our money when their policies and rules get in the way? They can't move money fast enough. What kind of emotion comes up? When they, have a limit on how much you can pull out. You might be trying to buy something and you've saved for that goal, and their rule says you can't take your own money out of the account. What happens inside of you? Those are the types of emotions that you can take check on and understand if you have a wound. Now, a wound is, something happened to you before. It could have been years ago. It could have been something that your parents experienced and you watched as a child. And those are moments where you saw someone that you loved or experienced something that was important to you that created an emotion. And the emotion was not properly handled or managed or released and understood, and it's kind of just stuck there. And that wound becomes, in the trauma practitioner, counseling world, a lot of those individuals will talk about that as a trigger, right? It's a trigger of emotion because it's not processed. And you can be inside of a bank branch. You can go in, and try to use your ATM in your community, try to get money out. And it's going to, there's going to be frustration if something doesn't go as planned, right? You have an expectation. And those are all examples of where the financial system can trigger money wounds. So emotional, unprocessed emotion stuck inside of you from a previous experience.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. So, uh, how do you propose people can, let's say, stop feeling that unprocessed emotion, or probably process those emotions out in a practical way?
Every time I work with a group, I always start with, just you're the only one that lives inside of, your body and your mind. We're the only ones in here. And if you start thinking about what does that mean? It means that I can only be the only one that's really aware of my thoughts, what those thoughts are, what started them, like what, triggered them. And you can at least take control of your thoughts, right? That sometimes they lie to you, sometimes some of those experiences tell you that, something feels really real right in the moment. but we have to take control to the whole theme of your show and, just, okay, hold on a second. Is this really real? Am I safe? Am I under attack? Am I being threatened? And if those answers are no, then it's a thought that's from the past. And it could be a thought that's triggered from money from the past. Do you really need something? Ask yourself questions about, is this really where I want to invest my money? Try to swap out that word from spend to invest. What am I investing my dollars in? Because it's a changed form of where I used my time and invested my time to get compensated for my value. So you just start changing your vocabulary. That's really where I ask people to start thinking. And it's why I created my book called Rooted, which is the original language of money, where we start thinking about the terms and the vocabulary that we throw around all day, every day, when we think about money. And we just go back to the basics.
All right. Thank you so much, Connie. So moving on, your phrase "cognition is currency" and "currency carries the current" is very, very powerful. But a lot of people might not know what that entails. Can you please break that down for my audience?
Yeah. So think about, there's a phrase that's, money makes the world go round, right?
Right.
If we say money makes the world go round, there's a current, there's a circulation of money, and there's an undercurrent to money. So just like you have an undercurrent in a raging river after the snow melts, there's a lot of water coming down from, a mountain here in the US or wherever, or there's a storm and there's just a lot of water that has to clear. Sometimes that can feel that way when you get swept away with emotions and you have this value that you want to exchange. Lots of people live in like a survival mode. They're, chasing something, they want something, they're not really aware of what that is, but they're out there, working hard, saving, trying to create money and flow in the current of, the world around them. So if you think about that, it really means that there's a flow that you're getting swept away from, an undercurrent. And can you just stand up and get your footing again? Can you stop and just pause and reconnect with your value inside of you? And then how do you exchange that value in the world around you? And how do you start flowing in the current in a different way so that you're not just, going on autopilot? We used that word right before the show. We're not on autopilot doing things unconsciously. We're being very conscious of our decisions and our choices so that we invest our time and our wisdom and our money wisely. And that's what that means is, don't let the current sweep you away. Put yourself into the current and flow the way that you were, actually born to do.
All right. Thank you so much, Connie. So, uh, let's talk about sacred ledgers as well.
So
You,
let's talk about that one. It's my pet project. It's a
yeah.
passion project of mine.
So, just go on. Just break that down for those who might not know.
Oh, you mean to talk about it? Yeah. So Sacred
Yeah.
Echoes it's a project that I actually built it myself, and it is after about 8 years wandering the community, exploring and listening to so many different stories and stories of my own and stories of survivors and those that have had extreme adversity that really wanted to kind of, help leave something behind for those that come behind them, the future generations. And, but they all have these recordings of stories that they wrote from the inside. We have a memory and we remember certain experiences, and those get recorded in a way that, sometimes those stories are what holds us back. Sometimes those stories have lessons in them. And sometimes they become so heavy that we can't clear our own ledger and allow ourselves to kind of break free from that autopilot program. And so as much as we have journals and we have notebooks and we can write things down, it doesn't mean that we don't still replay those stories in our head. And I was going through a little bit of that myself. We all have our life moments. So I actually created a story alchemizing platform and invite, different community members. And I've been on a mission to create community partners and affiliates that are looking to harmonize their community, but still make a living. And so that's what Sacred Ledgers is it's a tool that different individuals in a community can use, organizations can use it to create harmonizing events and or experiences for people who carry heavy stories. And it's something different. There's nothing out there like it. And it's kind of fun. And it returns, it takes in your story. You can give it all you got, and it listens and it takes your story and it changes it around and it gives you back a different version. And I won't spoil the surprise, but the different version becomes a new living current of stories turned into treasure.
Thank you, Connie. What you're building, I think, is purposeful as well. Thank you so much. And I think you have a lot of experience in finance and payment, so you are the right person for this. So I wish you success in this. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
also letting my audience know along the way what is going on. Okay, so uh, your work brings together traditional finance, technology, and emerging systems like like DeFi, which is decentralized finance. Yeah, I'm right. So where do
Yes.
you see the future of money movement heading?
Thank you for that question. And there are so many really powerful industry leaders and government officials all over the world having this conversation right now. And in the United States, where I live, we have an administration that is really passionate about digital assets and the future of what money actually represents. There's a lot of rules and regulations and ways to keep people safe because we just talked about money creates emotion, and when money is stolen from someone or they've been kind of frauded out of their money, which we've seen happen in some of the early blockchain and cryptocurrency programs and projects, it becomes very dangerous. And so, what I see though, the future of money is we're going to be changing form. So, money will go from, paper dollars and, digital ledger of bank account balances, and it will become more immutable, more transparent as far as how these centralized agencies hold the investment money that we put into them, right? So we invest our dollars into a bank or a financial institution, we entrust them to hold our dollars, and we're going to have more accountability for that. I think we're going to see more different products come out about incentivizing us to participate in some of these growing communities, incentivizing us to prove our economic activity, to prove how we learn. And the blockchain and decentralized finance will, as money becomes and still maintains the invisibility, but it's going to feel more tangible because it's going to be tied to some of these ledgers. Now, there's good and bad with that. I think we're going to see some, unfortunate experiences where there's too much control and not enough balance. But that's an invitation for each and every one of us to start understanding the technology so that we know how to integrate it into our communities in a way that we keep that balance. So I do think that it's a time to learn, it's a time to create and to learn how to build on this technology. And we can create digital assets and forms of experiences that use the technology to prove economic activity and to prove value and to prove creativity.
Hey, thank you so much. Definitely, I also believe money is heading that way, honestly. But I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm optimistic about it. Okay, so Connie, here's my final question for you. If someone listening has a complicated relationship with money because of their upbringing, past experiences, or financial struggles, what is the first step towards rebuilding that relationship?
Well, what's the first step in rebuilding any relationship? The first step is really being willing to look at it, to really admit what's the truth about the relationship that you want to change. So that's really the first step is really becoming aware, becoming, conscious of where is the pain. And we have to get really honest with ourselves sometimes. And sometimes, a lot of ways, people use money for distraction. They use it to entertain instead of to build or to create. They use it to, distract themselves from other points of pain. But if we could lean in to how we invest our dollars into areas of our life that we really love and that bring us joy, that's the first way to start rebuilding. If you think about what was one of the favorite things that you liked to do when you would save up your dollars or your money as a kid, and you would go spend that money to bring you something of joy. And children know how to play, and they know how to celebrate, and they know how to laugh. And if we can tap back into some of those early days and memories of when it wasn't so serious and we weren't all adulting and money wasn't a heavy, stressful thing, and we find a way to get back there, then you have a place to rebuild. You have you can go back to a foundation, and you can remember what it's like to create with money and use it as a tool to obtain the things that you want to be able to build something that brings you joy.
All right. Thank you so much. I really hope people can take that as a last piece of the puzzle to help them rebuild their relationship with money because so many people have bad relationship with money. I myself, I am not excluded from this. So thank you for joining us and sharing such a powerful perspective on money, value, and the human stories behind every financial system. So this conversation reminds us that money is never just numbers on the screen. It represents choices, opportunities, relationships, and the value we bring into the world. For those that would like to learn more about your work and explore maiden explorations, unlocking commerce in business, and the other initiatives around trauma-informed finance and human-centered commerce, how can they do that?
So you can go to my website, conniedavisspeaks.com. There is, a little bit of information about me, my journey, the podcast, the book. Sacred Ledgers is there. So that's probably a great place to start. And then I invite you to, experience some of these things that I'm creating. Tune into the show, read some of my blogs, just engage. I would love to have a conversation with anybody that's a community organization that wants to change the experience around money, bring in different perspectives. So, yeah, just reach out. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Connie. Once again, this has been so wonderful. And thank you for listening. You all, thank you for listening to Control or Be Controlled. I know this conversation challenges you the way you think about money, value, and system, just the same way it challenges me. Make sure to share it with someone who needs to hear it. And I will see you guys next time. As always, I love you guys so much. Until next time, remember, what controls our relationship with money often controls the choices we believe are possible. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful day ahead. Bye, guys. Thank you, Connie.
Bye, everyone.